Okay, we ready? Good evening. This is Monday, December 11th, and it is 6:03 p.m. And this is a meeting of the Community and Economic Development Committee. My name is Jeff Schilling. I'm the chair. I have Mrs. Sneed to my right and Mr. Pierce to my left. Today we're going to provide a recommendation to council regarding ordinance number 051-2023, rezone part of the Swank annexation at 2980 West Fenner Road from County A to General Agricultural to City R4 Single Family Resident District. We have a introduction from somebody?
Yes,
That's you.
I will take that on.
Okay.
So this is 3 in-lots, approximately 53 acres. It is north of the Edgewater subdivision off of Fenner Road. As you stated, it is recommended by the Planning Commission to change from county zoning A2, which is what it came in when it annexed in, to city zoning of R4, which is consistent with the R4, with the Edgewater subdivision that's there now. Let's say that. We are not recommending emergency legislation.
Okay. Any comments from the audience tonight on this? Okay, how about additional council members? Not seeing anything. Mr. Pierce, Ms. Sneed, do we have any comments on this? No. Okay. My question is that recently we did the Somerset subdivision and brought that in as a city agricultural because there were no plans submitted with this request. In other words, we have no idea what Mr. Swank and company are going to do with this property other than they want an R4. My understanding in discussing, when we discussed the Somerset recommendation, was that the city would prefer to come in as a planned unit development. Is the city still favoring that type of an organization or a... is that something the city would like to see, have this come in as a planned unit development, or as we did with Somerset, or...
No, this is a pretty standard piece of ground. It is adjacent to an R4. I think it might even have some R3B, at least as the lot sizes are concerned, with Edgewater. So the Planning Commission did not recommend a PD.
Well, they didn't recommend it with Somerset either.
Well, it came. They did. When it came to you for consideration, that had the Planning Commission's recommendation on it.
The second time around.
Right.
But the first time, it was just an they were looking at R5.
Correct. Yeah, you're right.
And we said we'd like to see the plans and we'd like to see what type of concessions that the developer was going to give to the city. And we don't have either of that with this particular proposal.
We don't. PD worked better for Somerset, or was more of a concern from the council, just given the traffic, the intersection involving State Route 55, and some questions from the public just to answer regarding storm and speed and traffic.
Right.
And
well, nobody lives out there on Fenner Road.
Well, there are folks. It's not very dense, though.
Yeah, not the same density populated that we had with the Somerset.
So the staff as well as the Planning Commission are very comfortable with an R4 designation for this.
Okay, so what happens to curb sidewalks, widening Fenner Road? I also noticed that I was out there the other day, and it's got the traditional county drainage ditch, which has to be resolved. Again, and I would like to clarify something. When we were talking about the Somerset thing, I'd recommended, or I'd asked for the city and the OTA administration to consider recreational trails. I was talking about the perimeter of the property along National Road and 55, not actually through the subdivision itself. And this is the same concern. In other words, that you know, we have to continue to look at ways to tie our subdivisions into the city besides getting into a SUV and you know, driving into downtown trying to find a place to park. So, I mean, where do we get all this consideration from? If we approve an R4 now, did we lose our bargaining chips on this thing, or what happens?
Well, it's not a bargaining chip. It's, you know, they are not looking at a private development, although, even though Somerset did. We have not gotten plans from them yet, so we haven't started to look at any kind of plans related to this piece of property. This is just a rezoning right now.
Right.
But coming in as a conventional zoning, they will be required to follow all of the storm or the subdivision regulations, which include the storm calcs, which include curbs and sidewalks, as well as any traffic enhancements that need to be done as a result of the impact of this subdivision going in on Fenner and the surrounding area. That would be determined by the engineering staff as well as possibly an outside traffic engineer. But as part of this process, a developer of this parcel would have to provide a traffic impact study. That is required under the subdivision regulations.
Yeah, again, I'm just thinking, I know there's a subdivision across the street, not a very big one, but it's across the street, and it's also in the county. But again, I guess I'm not sure the traffic study would give us the benefits that we might be looking for as far as future improvements. Again, I go back to when Stonebridge was built, started building 20-some years ago, and again, we were required to have the widening of the street and sidewalks, curb sidewalks and that type of thing.
And that was part of the subdivision regulations.
Well, but then they built Reserve of Washington, and we didn't get any of that. So
you're talking along Washington Road.
Yeah, both on Washington Road, and we didn't get anything. We got some very inexpensive left-hand turn lane.
Well, there are only so many requirements that we can put on a developer related to the impact of their subdivision.
Well,
in the reserves situation,
it was 50 acres. It had 50 homes on it.
Okay.
It wasn't 50 acres. They had 50 homes on it. But anyway, the problem is, again, is that we've got, you know, I guess I'm concerned about what the city's going to, what the city and the residents, the taxpayers are going to get out of this deal. And we knew when we approved Somerset, we knew what we were getting. Here, this is a pig in a poke. You know, it depends on who's doing the negotiation for the city.
They'll get the same subdivision and the same process, and the same rules will apply to them as any other conventional subdivision that's gone in. That includes Nottingham, it includes Halifax, it includes any conventionally zoned, which is most overwhelming majority of the residential subdivisions that have been built.
Okay, now, yeah, again, so what are we going to do with the drainage ditch out there on the how does the subdivision apply to the drainage ditches out there right now?
Mr. Schilling, it's too early to tell that. We don't have any plans. We don't know what they even want to do. You know, their engineer has not drawn anything up. They will have to comply with our subdivision regs. It's hard to tell you exactly what they're going to do without seeing their plans, nor is it possible for me, without those plans, to anticipate what we will go back to the developer and indicate they have to do.
That's why I'm saying, why do we want to approve this before we see the plans?
Because this is a rezoning. This is not a subdivision approval.
I understand that, but that's so was Somerset, was a rezoning, and we got the plans as part of the deal.
That's because you wanted to see it, and it was resubmitted as a planned development when council rejected the.
I don't care how they submit this thing, but I'm just saying I like.
Well, you have to care because PD is a different process.
I understand it, but I mean they could come back with us as plans for an R4, and we could take a look at those and see what what it's going to be looking at before we have to approve it. Right? I mean,
No, that's not the way it works with conventional rezoning. They're not going to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on engineering to draw detailed drawings if they don't know that they have the zoning. That's why the subdivision regs are very comprehensive and require a lot of staff review from all different disciplines. But that has to happen after the rezoning, the appropriate zoning is presented or is passed, so that they can then draw up the plans to the zoning specifications.
well, that's what Somerset did. They drew up, they decided to do a PD and drew up the plan. They spent thousands of dollars drawing up detailed plans, engineering plans, and then presented it to council for approval. So I'm not sure I see the difference between them.
Well, because a plan development is a totally different process than the conventional zoning. If the council didn't want to do R4 here and instead said we'd like to see it as a PD, then they would have to follow the same process as Somerset did. We are not recommending that you do that, nor is the Planning Commission.
Okay. No, we were told when we did Somerset that the city prefers to do PDs, and that's why Somerset ended up as a PD.
In a plot of land situated where it is, Somerset meaning, then that was more appropriate. This lends itself to a conventional subdivision.
Okay, thank you for the information. Any other questions?
Not this time.
What's our,
Move forward.
Move forward.
I don't think we should.
You want to file a minority report?
Yes, I'd like to file a minority report. Okay.
The clerk will get with you.
Get done on that. That sounds like a good deal. Okay. Next item on the agenda. We are providing a recommendation to council regarding ordinance number 052-2023, rezone 1304 West Main Street from R4 Single Family Residential District to OR1 Office Residential District.
This is a single lot. It's at the corner of West Main Street and South?
South Avenue.
Thank you. I thought it was a direction.
Rear Avenue, whatever.
It's a small, single lot rezoning request. To the west of it is, I have the drawing right here, is residential. To the east is office commercial. This is a corner property.
The west isn't the west, across the street where the offices are sit, and to the east is all residential?
Let's
East is
see.
residential, west is Park National.
Right.
There's a Ameriprise building behind
Right.
Park National. on
What did
that
I
side.
say?
Yeah, the west is the office.
I flipped that?
Yeah, I think we flipped that one. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. And so what they've requested is to change that as a transitional rezoning from residential to the office residential. And then as you go west, and it would become office commercial, and then farther and farther west, you get into straight business.
Okay.
Again, this is a single parcel. The Planning Commission did recommend this unanimously. There was a public hearing. I neglected to say that on the last item. There was a public hearing at the last council meeting, and no one spoke.
Okay. Any questions from the audience concerning this? Any additional council people would like to comment on this? Mr. Pierce? Mrs. Sneed?
No question.
Okay. I have a couple questions as well. In the discussions at the Planning Commission, I think we talked about a transitional buffer. And the buffer, this house actually sits in a residential area. It's surrounded, to the east is a residential house, behind this property is another residential house, and then, across is another residential. So, I mean, your three houses, surrounding this house, except for the West Main, and then also, of course, across the street. So this house is really it's not the buffer. The buffer is actually the street. This is, you're moving into a residential neighborhood, and essentially, I guess the question is that, some cities have preserved their residential housing along some of their main streets leading into town. And obviously, we can go down West Main Street, and we have some very beautiful homes on West Main Street, but we also have, we're starting to see more and more commercial development, office development. And so I guess what is the OTA administration's desires here are we favoring more office commercial development along West Main Street? I know with the expansion of the street, some people on West Main Street are going to have to look both ways before they open their front door to go out into what little yard they have left. But is the administration looking to? Is this no big deal, or is this something that we want to talk about as far as trying to preserve our residential housing along West Main Street?
I don't know that there's a priority to preserve residential along our busiest and arguably speediest corridor, being State Route 41.
Well, it's 35 miles an hour.
Well, that's what is posted. Yes.
Well, that's what South Market Street's supposed to be too.
I understand. So we have a heavily traveled, relatively fast traveled corridor, and so residential, particularly on smaller lots such as this, probably isn't the best use of the properties along West Main Street. So we have no issue with rezoning this parcel, particularly as you're moving west and you're getting more and more into commercial. We're not talking about one of the larger houses that are a little further east, but we are talking about a smaller property that is adjacent to, yes, there's a road, small road that
residential
provides
street.
that buffer, but you continue west and you're getting into the commercial district. We are trying to be a little sensitive to that, in that we are recommending, and the Planning Commission recommended office residential and not office commercial. So any non-commercial uses would be very low intensity.
Okay. So you mentioned the speed on West Main Street. Yeah, our complete street policy allows share of the road, recommending a share of the road for bicycles on West Main Street. Is that?
I'm not sure that has anything.
You brought it up. I'm just bringing it up. I'm just commenting on your speed of West Main Street, and we're recommending that we share the road for bicycles on West Main.
Okay.
Okay. So anyhow, I guess we can enforce the laws too. Okay. What's our druthers here? Move forward.
Move forward.
I guess we'll move forward on this one. Okay, number 3, provide a recommendation to council regarding revisions to the guidelines of the Small Business Development Loan Fund and the Community Development Block Grant Revolving Loan Fund, EDRLF Loan Fund, to provide low-interest assistance to future applications for loan programs as recommended by the Loan Review Committee.
So the Loan Review Committee did meet and made some recommendations regarding the interest rate guidelines based on the market conditions that we have currently we are experiencing. So the current interest rate guidelines are a loan that is approved for less than 10 years is 0.5% below current prime rate. 10 to 15 years is at prime rate, and then anything greater than 15 years, typically no more than 20 years, because we don't really do those, is prime rate plus 1. Prime rate, I didn't check it today, but is in the 7%, 7 to 8% range. When these guidelines were set most recently, the prime
Couple
rate
years
was
ago, yeah.
significantly lower.
Yeah.
And so the recommendation from the committee and from the staff and through the committee is anything less than 10 years is half of prime rate. 10 to 15 years is at 3/4 or 75% of the current prime rate, and then 15 to 20 years would be current prime rate. We'd like to boost the availability and attractiveness of our programs. We do have some balances, and we know that there's some worthy projects out there, and we want to make them as affordable as possible in this current environment. This would apply to both the Small Business Development Revolving Loan Fund as well as the Community Development Block Grant, RLF.
Okay. Any questions from the audience regarding this? Council people. Mr. Phillips.
It's not a question, it's just a comment. We've actually been talking about this for the last couple of years, and primarily led by Councilman Seaver, one of his suggestions, and I'm glad that we're undertaking this at this point. Thank you.
Mrs. Neely, Mr. Pierce?
Just to comment, I appreciate the city continuing to stay on top of that and make those proposed changes, recognizing what might benefit the people using this program.
Has my full support.
Yeah, again, I think this is a good program, and we do have the ability to review this on a regular basis, so if prime rate would go down to, again, some very, very low numbers, we can adjust this. But again, it's important that the city support these types of programs. I also agree we move forward with this. We're right on that, everybody wants to move forward. Okay, number 4, provide a recommendation to council regarding modifications to the residential exterior housing improvement revolving loan fund to provide low-interest options to applicants to the program as recommended by the Loan Review Committee.
Okay. This program was created in 2021. We have discussed this with Mr. Frigge, the city auditor, and we have, since that program was created, so what this is it offers low-interest or zero-interest loans for residential exterior housing improvements. This was created out of the some of the federal funds that were made available. We have 3 options depend on income limits. And what we are finding, what we've been experiencing is we've provided 6 loans so far, and all of those were zero-interest loan options. So whenever we have any property maintenance concerns, we do offer this program to anybody, regardless of income, because we don't know, income levels at that time. And what we have found out is that if it's not a 0% interest, then the people aren't applying for it, because right now we're at current prime rate. What the staff, Mr. Frigge and myself, are recommending is that we reduce the interest rate in option 2 to a 2% fixed rate instead of the prime rate. Option 1 is the 0% interest rate, and that's for income limits of 80% or less than the Housing and Urban Development chart, if you will, criteria. Option 2 has income limits of 80.1% to 99.9% of the HUD income limits. It's the option 3 when you are talking about more of the middle class and the greatly exceed the HUD income limits. So the only recommended change that we are asking council to consider is changing option 2 from the current prime rate as an interest rate to 2%.
Okay. Questions from the audience? Any council members that have any questions? Do you have any questions on this? Okay. Can this be used, like, say again, for the residents along West Main Street that are seeing that their yards are getting smaller? Can they use some of these loans to make, maybe have some plantings or something to maybe, keep the
No,
houses, there strictly has to be like the fixed windows and
Yes, these are for
caulkings and that
windows
type
and
of thing.
roof and gutters and those kind of things, permanent improvements to the exterior of the house.
But not landscaping type of thing?
Not landscape.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, what do we like to do here?
Move forward, it's recommended.
Or I think we can move forward with that one as well. Okay, is there anything else before the committee?
No,